Shalom. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to White Robes family. This is the 47th installment. And as you can see with the backdrop, I tend to use black and white in reference to how this message can be akin to understanding the purposes of the Passover. Though we understand the literal dynamics of the Passover, I submit to you that Passover should be a time when we reflect on instructions that was given to Yashar'al as they move through life under the guidance of the Almighty Father. You see, the Passover, my brothers and sisters, was a time when the messenger of death passed over Yashar'al, those who complied with the message from the Almighty Father that was delivered to them from Mashyach and the leaders of Yashar'al. And the ultimate Passover is Yahusha Mashyach. We must understand that Yahuah draws us to Yahusha, as it is written in the scriptures, and I mention it often, my brothers and sisters. And we must understand by the blood of the Lamb, we find life everlasting. With that said, this installment, I challenge you to seek to discern its relevance to the purpose of receiving instructions in order to live. This installment, as you can see, is entitled Final Day Positioning. Final Day Positioning. Before I get into it, my brothers and sisters, let me read the disclaimer. The information contained in White Robes family represent the instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content. And this is a way to be compliant with this media platform, my brothers and sisters. Make the decisions, and I believe any words from the Almighty Father will reach all those it is intended to reach, as it is stated in Isaiah 55:11. Let me continue. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence and or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. And please note that I'm not affiliated with any other ministries with similar names. With that said, my brothers and sisters, let us press on. As I stated, this segment is about final day positioning. Yashar'al, we echo so boldly our beliefs. We talk so boldly about the belief in the scriptures. We uplift the text sometimes more than the Spirit of Yahusha. Not recognize the importance of discerning the text as it's come alive by our teacher, who is indeed Yahusha Mashyach. End times are here. The scriptures describe much, from the final exodus to destruction, to famine and pestilence and disease, to earthquakes, to deliverance, to dying as martyrs for Yahusha's name. Now the question remains for each of us. Each of us will face a time where the person in the mirror must discern what he or she is being prepared for and must seek to discern that final day positioning. In other words, where are you placed? Where do you believe the Almighty Father is directing you? And that will be your final day positioning, my brothers and sisters. It may be ultimately you would end up in the promised land along with those gathered from the four corners of the earth. Or you could be one that faced a death as a martyr for Yahusha's name, or anything in between. For whatever reason, the Almighty Father may have called you home. It could be due to unbelief, undiscerning, that you're caught in the midst of somewhere you don't really need to be. There will be those of us ordered in specific areas where we may be ordered to shelter in place and be the last voice echoing the warnings and instructions from the Almighty Father. Final day positioning, my brothers and sisters. It's easy. So many of us talk about that we believe that there will be a final exodus, There are many who would say that all of us are going. That's not true, my brothers and sisters. Not before the physical return of Yahusha Mashyach. The day of resurrection, sure, all will be gathered. But before the resurrection, before judgment day, it will be those that the Most High has chose for his esteem to fulfill the gathering from the four corners of the earth that is mentioned in Isaiah 11:12. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, everything will not just happen like in an instant. We are beamed from one point to the next. We are placed at one point to the next. There will be no spaceships moving and gathering Yashar'al. My brothers and sisters, final day positioning. Now is the time to begin discussing with one another. Where do you discern the Most High telling you to go, to be? Is he telling you to stay still? And is that forever until your physical, my physical, our physical demise? Or is he saying prepare for movement? These discussions must be had, my brothers, and they will. Actions will come, and I believe they have begun. Final day positioning, my brothers and sisters. Let me read and share with you the following. Movement will prove the importance of final day positioning. Consider Exodus chapter 12, verse 33 through 40. Exodus chapter 12, verse 33 through 40. And the Mitzrayites were strong on the people to hasten to send them away out of the land, for they said, we are all dying. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their garments on their shoulders. And the children of Yashar'al had done according to the word of Moshe. Notice, my brothers and sisters, when I talk about Passover, I say it's about following instructions so that you may live, so that we may live. And here's an example where the children of Yashar'al did according to the word of Moshe. And they had asked for the Mitzrayites objects of silver and objects of gold and garments. And Yahuah gave the people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrayites. In some versions it says Egyptians. So that they gave them what they asked, and they plundered the Mitzrayites. Again, some translation will say Egyptians. Pay close attention to the 37th verse. I'm in the 12th chapter of Exodus. And the children of Yashar'al set out from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the little ones. And a mixed multitude went up with them too, also flocks and herds, very much livestock. And they baked unleavened cakes on the dough which they had brought out of Mitzrayim, for it was not leavened, since they were driven out of Mitzrayim, and had not been able to delay, nor had they prepared food for themselves. And the sojourn of the children of Yashar'al, who lived in Mitzrayim, were 430 years. My brothers and sisters, this is just a portion of Yashar'al, just a portion of Yashar'al paying attention to instructions. We must, my brothers and sisters, we must realize paying attention to instructions is important during these final days. Consider what's happening already. Consider the people who fled from Australia, different parts of Australia, and their lives were spared from the flame. But consider those who were trapped and may have perished. These were their final days of positioning. Consider most recently spoken of about the earthquakes in Puerto Rico. If it's prone to earthquakes and they constantly happen, is this the place where the Most High would have you? There are some who perish during these earthquakes. Consider the coronavirus, a label that labels many different viruses. And people are quarantined in the city, in the country. Could these be the foreshadow of what's to come? As end times predict, there will be famine and pestilence. You see, food shortages, people are unaware. In some cases, food shortages are masked by putting in fillers and man-made chemicals and substances to enlarge the supply. Famine has begun in many parts of the world, my brothers and sisters. Will we be in a place where there is food? Or are we among those in South America who have fled various cities and countries because of famine and pestilence? Are we among those on the continent of Africa, South Africa, possibly even Central Africa, that are fleeing because of famine, drought, and disease that that are going unreported because it's been going on for so long? Final day positioning. Will we be trapped in a city, a country, as pestilence and disease begin to ramp up? Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. Yes, there have been cures in times past, but let us be mindful. These are end times, my brothers and sisters. Mitzrayim listened to the leadership that was provided to them by the Almighty Father in Yahusha. Leadership came from the Almighty Father Yahuah, directing Moshe or Musha and Aharon and the elders who assisted. And this led to the deliverance for Yashar'al. I say to you, to this day, we are being prepared for deliverance. It may be deliverance to a point and place where we will find our final days before we physically die. It may be deliverance from where we are to remove us from destruction, disease, and famine for a point in time or a period of time. Or it could mean deliverance, period, where the Most High delivers us to fulfill being among the ranks of those gathered from the four corners of the earth. It's time to begin to ask yourselves, do the person you love, do the person you're in fellowship with, do you believe that they are prepared to move as they are directed by the Spirit of Yahusha? I heard a guy with the coronavirus say he will not leave his girlfriend who may be at risk, who cannot leave. She's trapped. She's quarantined right now in Wuhan, China, I believe. It's the city she's trapped in. And one thing I will say, it is in China. The whole mainland China is now under quarantine. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, the Most High Father, if he has something prepared for you, he will move you. And many of us will face some hard decisions. So the question is, who do we seek to worship and obey? Regardless of what man think, there will be times some will be ordered to leave the girlfriend, the fiance, or the girlfriend ordered to leave the male friend or fiance, or a mother or son, nephew. Are we not aware of when the Mashyach spoke of leaving things behind for his sake? End times are here, my brothers and sisters. Hard decisions are before us. And it will reach the doorsteps of those who are in the Western Hemisphere who may not have seen the things and conditions that are occurring in China, Australia, South America, Central or South Africa, parts of Africa, or even Europe, where flooding is taking place. You see, global warming and climate change is producing conditions, my brothers and sisters, that it's causing people to move. Sure, in some cases, a person died here, a person died there, 5 here, 10 there. Everything is not reported. The news selectively choose what they want you to know. But make no mistake, end times will ramp up and the numbers will enlarge, my brothers and sisters. Let me continue. And this might seem like a warning that's being repetitive, but you may be one who listened to this for the first time, or you may be one it takes several times before you get it. It may be indeed the Most High extends his favor to you until such time as you open your ears, or we open our ears and respond. Make no mistake, a siren, a warning, will repeat itself over and over until no longer needed. Yashar'al, final day positioning. Have those discussions. Discover who's willing to listen to the voice of the Most High and move. and know when and with whom. Know the criteria that is necessary, O Yashar'al. Let me continue. Consider processes for the final exodus, my brothers and sisters. I've read this before and I'll read it again. Isaiah 43, 5-7. It reads as follows. Do not fear, for I am with you. I shall bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. I shall say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not keep them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. All those who are called by my name, whom I have created, formed, even made for my esteem. My brothers and sisters, make no mistake. The scriptures have been tampered with. Some of the words we see, and we know none of these words are the original words from the original text. But make no mistake, there will be a gathering from the four corners of the earth. But those whom the Most High has chosen to represent his words in fulfilling being gathered from the four corners of the earth before the physical return of Yahusha Mashyach. And I say this, my brothers and sisters, it's hard for us to realize that we are in the generation that will face movement. But let us be mindful of the living presence of the Spirit of Yahuah, that he works in us, through us, one towards another in the name of Yahusha. Let us not be like the son-in-laws of Lot. Consider Genesis 19th chapter, verse 13 and 14. It reads, for we are going to destroy this place because the cry against them has grown great before the face of Yahuah, and Yahuah has sent us to destroy it. These are messengers from Yahuah, sent to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Now listen carefully, my brothers and sisters, in the 14th verse. I'm in the 19th chapter of Genesis. And Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-laws, who had married his daughters, and said, get up, get out of this place, for Yahuah is going to destroy the city. But to his son-in-laws, he seemed to be one joking. Yashar'al. For whatever reason, my brothers and sisters, they thought Lot was joking. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, was he? Was Lot joking? Did the son-in-laws make it? I don't think so, my brothers and sisters. Will you take the warnings that are going forth as a joke, or someone that don't know what they're talking about? Consider these words, my brothers and sisters. Matthew 24th chapter, the words from Yahusha Mashyach. And Yahusha answered and said to them, take heed that no one leads you astray. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall lead many astray. And you shall begin to hear of fightings and reports of fightings. See that you are not troubled, for these have to take place, but the end is not yet. My brothers and sisters, see, when it talks about the comfort, we're going to find that our comfort comes by understanding. And you might say, well, what does this have to do with what you just read? It's saying here, see that you are not troubled. See, if you understand what's getting ready to happen, that brings a degree of comfort, knowing that these things have to take place. He said, but the end is not yet. Nation shall rise against nation, and reign against reign, and there shall be scarcities of food, deadly diseases, and earthquake in places. And all of these are the beginning of birth pains. Then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. You see, my brothers and sisters, some of us will be gathered from the four corners of the earth, and some of us will die as martyrs for Yahusha's name, and some of us will die for various other reasons. It goes on to say in the 10th verse, and then many shall stumble, and they shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. My brothers and sisters, we will discover, my brothers and sisters, a time We'll discover a time when friends, family, those whom we are in fellowship, those who we believe, quote unquote, had our back or would be with us through thick and thin, life or death. You see, my brothers and sisters, end times will bring out the cowards. It will bring out those who do not stand strong and discern what the Spirit of Yahushua is saying. End times will prove that some of us fail to vet, to examine not only ourselves, but those around us. And we will discover we're in wrong company. But you, O Yashar'al, who seek to discern, who recognize the voice of the Spirit of Yahushua working in us, through us, who take heed to the warnings and the instructions that go on forward. It is you, my brothers and sisters, can look forward to completing the task that is before you, that is before us. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, truly our emotions, our mental state will be challenged. There's more to consider, my brothers and sisters, much more. Final day positioning. Are you in the city, the state, the country? Are you where you're supposed to be? Are you preparing for movement? With whom? Have you discovered how to identify others that are obedient to the Most High? Or will you be among those led astray? Have you asked the right questions, O Yashar'al? Movement have begun for many, and soon movement will occur for all those who are physically alive on the planet. You see, as widespread destruction come, as famine and pestilence enlarge, as earthquakes in diverse places, as wars ramp up, every living person on this planet that is physically alive will move. Will move at some point in time. And I'm saying every living person. Even those in the outer court, even those that are not our brothers and sisters, will move. If you doubt that, who do you think is gathering in the valley of Megiddo to march against the children of Yahuah? You see, so they would have come from different parts of the world and joined forces with those who they claim or believe to be their master. But I say to you, O Yashar'al, movement is coming. Final day positionings. Let us begin to discuss how, in the face of widespread destruction, in the face of famine and disease and pestilence, in the face of end-time cataclysmic conditions, let us begin to discuss how we would move, when we should move, and who we shall be among. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al.
Here's a summary for
Consider the following.
Shall is, however, still widely used in bureaucratic documents, especially documents.
Let me stop, my brothers and sisters. Apparently, I have this eavesdropping phone. Just start talking. Consider this, my brothers and sisters. Hebrews 12:5-8. It reads as follows. And you have forgotten the appeal which speaks to you as to sons. My son, do not despise the discipline of Yahuah, nor faint when you are reproved by him. You see, my brothers and sisters, we'll discover in some of the discipline, and discipline is the fruit of judgment. And as it is written in 1 Peter 4:17, judgment begins at the house of Yahuah. We're that house. And out of that judgment comes discipline. And out of that discipline comes correction to those who yield. And he's telling us, don't faint when we are reproved. It goes on in the 6th verse, Hebrews 12:6. For whom Yahuah loves, he disciplines and flogs every son whom he receives. If you endure discipline, the Almighty One is treating you as sons. For what sons is there whom a father does not discipline? But if you are without discipline, of which all have become sharers, then you are illegitimate and not sons. Discipline. Let us quit trying to take up for our egos, our pride, our feelings, and yield. This is necessary for final day positionings. For we will discover we won't have time to be arguing, fighting, debating. The Most High will deliver those whom he is ordering to fulfill his words. And I say often, there are three major promises that many people don't talk about from the Almighty Father. One is discipline, another is vengeance, another is wrath. And we will witness these things. We who are physically alive will witness these different things. Consider Romans 12:19. It says, "Beloved, do not revenge yourselves, but give place to the wrath, for it has been written, vengeance is mine, I shall repay, says Yahuah." My brothers and sisters, many people don't realize that the innocent blood that has been spilled, the world will get a glimpse when the rivers and the waters begin to turn as blood. The messengers from the Almighty Father will remind them of the innocent blood spilt. And we who are Yashar'al will grow to understand that this is part of the plan of the Almighty Father, and we will shout hallelujah, for vengeance is indeed his, and he will prove it. But let me go on. Ephesians 5:6, "Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these the wrath of the Almighty One comes upon the sons of disobedience." People that are not his children, my brothers and sisters. People that are not our brothers or sisters. The wrath will come on them. You see, to the children that is in tune with the Most High, we know that these earthen vessels will go back to the dirt. We who understand, receive, and recognize and believe, we know that all that is about to happen has been written. And we would have learned or will learn the power of the inward man and the position of the earthen vessel. So in some cases, my brothers and sisters, there will be some unlearned that when widespread destruction ramp up, that would think that the Almighty Father is being vengeful to them. But no. You see, it says he reigns on the just and the unjust. His plan is going to happen. He's not going to wait till we move out of the way. Oh, okay. Symmanayah don't want to move out the way, so let me wait. Hey, I'm going to do this vengeance, but as soon as he move out the way, or as soon as they move out the way, I'll do something. No. He's ordering those to move that needs to move, and those that will not will face the consequences of being in that. And those that he wants to be there as the last voice to those who are there unlearned, saying, regardless of what you're seeing, trust this is the plan of the Almighty Father, and your inward man will rise up and shout hallelujah to those who are indeed our brothers and sisters. Let me continue. 1 Thessalonians 5:9-10 says, "But because the Almighty One did not appoint us to wrath, but to obtain deliverance through our Master Yahusha Messiah, who died for us, so that we, whether awake or asleep, should live together with him." You see, so many people will say, we're not appointed to wrath. It's not going to hurt us. It's not going to hit us. But see, they forget that this verse here, 10, where it says, whether awake or asleep. Asleep is talking about physical death. Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, the promises from the Almighty Father will come to be. Final day positioning is paramount. What say you, Yashar'al? What is your position? I say to you, my brothers and sisters, end times will prove to demand a response from those who will be gathered. You see, my brothers and sisters, end time prophecies will be fulfilled. I can't stress that enough. You who are hearing these words, whether for the first time or a second or numerous times, have you begun to discuss these matters with those closest to you? Have you begun to seek to discern? Are you ordered to lead and shepherd others in preparation for movement? Or are you one who are being prepared for movement? Or are you one who believe you are to shelter in place? And you are in the place where you will face your final days. Final day positioning. These are the matters of Yashar'al. Make no mistake. Do not be concerned with the outer court. Do not be concerned with those who are not our brothers and sisters. Seek to discern what thus saith the Almighty Father, and he will speak to us directly in spirit or through us one towards another. Those who will be gathered will discover the demands that the Almighty Father has for us. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, remember, some will not be among those that are gathered. Some will not be among those who obey. Some will, not maybe, but will leave many and much behind, O Yashar'al. Many and much. There will be individuals that we know, some we don't know. Some of us will be left behind. Let us not get mad at he who created a plan that is unfolding, but let us discern and accept his guidance and know that we've done all we can to discern his words and obey him. Consider these words, my brothers and sisters. Matthew 19:28-30 says, and Yahusha said to him, truly I say to you, when the son of Adam sits on the throne of his esteem, you who have followed me in the rebirth shall also sit on the 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Yashar'al. And everyone, listen, and everyone who has left houses or brothers or sister or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. But many who are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, these passages will come alive. They will mean much to us in the coming days. We will learn how to respond to what the Most High is saying to us. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, are you ready? Do you believe you're part? Do you believe that you are part of end times? Do you believe that you belong to the Almighty Father? Are you aware that he will indeed fulfill what he has promised? The realities of end times are here. I cannot stress enough the importance of choosing wisely, my brothers and sisters. Learn how to vet. Learn how to ask questions. You will discover, we will discover, by asking questions, it uncovers. It brings about answers that reveals those who are and will be fitly joined together, who will be among the ranks of the 144,000 and great multitude that will be gathered from the four corners of the earth. The realities of end times are here. I cannot stress enough the emphasis of choosing wisely. You, the one in the mirror, must make the decision. Are you one who will be obedient to the Almighty Father? Will you begin to ask questions and reach out to those who echo the words that you must hear? Are you one who will speak out and speak the words that others must hear? Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, there is much ahead. There are many tasks ahead. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, the time is now to begin discerning the obedient. Not people who just could read some scriptures to you or quote some scriptures. People who are living a life that is guided by the Spirit of the Almighty Father. Living it by obeying, not just reading the text and saying, I'm obeying the 10 Commandments, the laws and statutes. When they just say that, don't accept that as good enough. Anyone can echo those words. Ask them, what does that mean? And what instruction did he give you today for now? You see, the Almighty Father is a living Almighty One, the Almighty One. And he gives us instructions. In the name of Yahusha, our footsteps are guided. There are warnings. There are instructions. There is discipline. Don't just settle for someone saying, I follow the 10 Commandments. I obey the 10 Commandments, the laws and statutes. Again, ask them, what does that mean? What did they do today? What did they do yesterday? Where does the blood of the Lamb of Yahusha fit in the scheme of that walk? Did you stumble? Did you fall? Do you know how to repent? Did you yield to reproof? Did you stand firm on what is set apart and true? Or did you just fold your hands and yield to compromising communities, camps, and fellowships? Yashar'al, make no mistake. A refined, awakening nation will rise in the face of all that is ahead, and we will begin to recognize the obedient from the disobedient, those who may stumble but get under the blood of the Lamb, seek forgiveness, yield to reproof, rise up to correction, and be anew. We will watch a set-apart nation strengthened with each passing moment, and we will watch those who will face a different experience. The time is now, O Yashar'al. What position do you take, O viewer of these words, O listener to this message? Never forget, my brothers and sisters, there are plans. There are plans that are unfolding with each passing day, with each tick of the clock, with each rise of the sun, and with each sunset. Plans are forging to the perfection that the Most High would have them to be. There are group plans, there are community plans, there are fellowship plans, there are individuals receiving plans, and we will begin to see the mighty hand of the Almighty Father bring like a complicated life puzzle together clearly, where we can see the picture of his words being fulfilled as it relates to these final days. There are plans, my brothers and sisters, and we will learn the value of final day positioning. We will learn why it's important to begin to discern, am I where I'm supposed to be? And some of us will face that I woulda, coulda, shoulda listened. And some of us will shout, hallelujah, I moved when I was supposed to move. I did what I was supposed to do when I was supposed to do it. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, with each plan, it is said how one teach in part, prophesy in part. And I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, there are plans for our final day positioning. There are plans going forward that involve us to be prepared and to be ready to listen to what the voice of the Most High has to say to us this day, this moment. As for me, O Yashar'al, White Rose family has been tasked with a plan that I believe will link with other plans. If you've listened to this and you feel you've listened to enough, then you may quit listening. But to those who are listening for the first time or those who need to hear, maybe you missed something last time. The plan of White Rose family to build a set-apart team of leaders, vetted, proven to be chosen by the Almighty Father in Yahusha's name, to develop an information and resource center, both physically and virtually, answering questions, providing information to those who seek answers as end times ramp up, to those who seek to discern what are the living instructions from the Almighty Father, to those who seek to recognize the warnings and heed to them, to build a team with diverse skills, individuals who are willing to mentor those who are unlearned but are drawn into certain trades or skills or academic positions, professional positions, as one would say, to meet the natural need. To purchase land in Virginia for those in the Western Hemisphere, for I believe the exit point for Yashar'al will be in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Virginia. And I think there will be, I'm compelled with all my mind, body, and soul that there will be a mass exodus on the Western Hemisphere that will leave from the state of Virginia, heading towards the promised land, directed by the Spirit of Yahuah in Yahusha's name. There will be shepherds and leaders as mass numbers come together. And when we compare it to the total global population, it will represent a remnant. So you will have a great multitude and a remnant, all in the same. To identify and support safe zones for people who have begun moving now, knowing where they can stop and freshen up and fuel up and become energized. A plan where one can get answers as the Spirit of Yahuah provides answers. A plan that includes providing guidance and support for completing this journey from A to Z. from beginning to end before the physical return of Yahusha Mashyach, to provide guidance for inner court life, guidance for those who have come together and are gathered together as we intermittently witness the group enlarge. There will be guidance for the set-apart children of Yahuah and instructions on what must be done as we find ourselves waiting on Yahusha Mashyach. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, every plan has a cost. Count the cost, my brothers and sisters. Use it or lose it. We can make the sacrifice, whether it be skills, resources, supplies, or financial contributions towards the coming together of Yashar'al. Or we can reject and misuse the favor that we found. The skills and strength and stamina that we have now, some of us may not have tomorrow. For as famine and pestilence come, it will weaken many, my brothers and sisters. And as we find ourselves weak, we may find ourselves unable to do the things we once could do yesterday. We may have skills, we may have the ability to teach others. But if our minds are troubled, if we are worried and caught up in the travesty of things that are hurting us as it relates to people that we know dying, as we witness famine and pestilence ramp up, disease and earthquakes, there may be many distractions. So use what you can while you can, my brothers and sisters. And know that we've received things by the favor of the Almighty Father for a purpose. As for me with White Robes, I have set up a Cash App White Robes family. And I ask, will you help? Will you contribute to this plan? Will you become connected to this plan? And I believe that the Almighty Father harden hearts and soften hearts. You can also contribute through PayPal and through other means. I have my website and the email below on many of the slides, as you may see in this segment. And going forth, that's what you will see. The website will be revised to reflect what's most currently happening before us, O Yashar'al. The email, reach out. Let's begin to talk, my brothers and sisters. Let's ask one another questions. Final day positioning. There are no rewind buttons. There are no retakes. Sure, on YouTube you can hit rewind, but I'm saying in life, my brothers and sisters, we will find there will not be do-overs. Because what we did yesterday left an indelible imprint or a contributing imprint towards set-apartness and cannot be changed or taken away. What we do today reflect where we are, who we are. What say you, O Yashar'al? Final day positionings. As end times ramp up, we will begin to see things that occur where people cannot get away from where they are currently positioned. Whether they're quarantined or trapped, movement comes. So many leaders don't want to discuss the preparation of movement. So many leaders don't want to talk about, let us begin to move towards the direction of the exit points. For those outside of the Western Hemisphere, I have said before, you will find movement towards the perimeter, outer perimeter of the nation, the country you're in now, that's closest towards the promised land. And leadership will rise among Yashar'al across the face of the earth. As for me, I am compelled to speak most widely on the Western Hemisphere, for this is what I believe I am charged to do, to be a contributing factor in Yashar'al coming together. White and black individuals, Hispanics and Greeks, Native Americans, South Americans, Canadians, people of many nations, kindreds, and tongues will come together, grafted together, those who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, those who are drawn by the Almighty Father to Yahusha, our Mashyach. I believe I am tasked to contribute towards that. And while I yet have breath, I know of no other direction to turn. What say you, O Yashar'al? We will recognize the chosen children of Yahuah, the chosen, we will recognize and acknowledge the true Hebrews. We will acknowledge the true Gentiles, other nations, meaning anybody other than the Hebrew is a Gentile, other nations. But we will recognize it for the sake of fulfilling what is written, but we will not stop there. We will go beyond race and nationality, and we will go to the spirit of one another, coming together as one in spirit in the name of Yahusha. Physically and spiritually, we will come together, those who are called and drawn by the Almighty Father, those who are chosen to fulfill his words. Make no mistake, end times are here. Begin discussing this, begin praying, begin seeking to discern. Ask questions, my brothers and sisters, many questions, prayerfully, with the intent to discover what the Most High have for you, for me, for Yashar'al. On that note, O Yashar'al, you have been listening to a segment of White Rose Family, the 47th installment, entitled Final Day Positioning. I salute your patience, your tolerance, your pursuit of set-apartness. My prayer is that you, me, that we are able to discern with accuracy what is expected and obey the living instructions, the living orders from the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name. On that note, I say to you, my brother, my sister, Shalum.